Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat sejahtera. So untuk kelas pada hari ini kita akan bincangkan berkaitan dengan database for content management system. Okay, basically what you are doing so far when you are installing Joomla, WordPress and everything, most of the time it's related to MySQL database. So we try to capture what is behind of this database in content management system. Okay, when you already learn database maybe in second semester or second year, so most of the time you are given the structured query language. But right now we try to take a look what is behind all of that, and there is three things that I want to discuss in chapter 4. Actually this is the part 1 sorry for the typo. It's an overview of management system and database in CMS, and the second part of this chapter 4 is hierarchy in RDB. So RDB stand for Relational Database. Okay, RDBMS is Relational Database Management System. So it's quite the same thing, and it's gonna be used in CMS. Okay, what is what's in a management system? Okay, we have a repository, we have a repository interface, we have connection to other system, we have a workflow module, and we have an administrative module. Okay, a repository, as you know, okay, is a place where we store everything. Okay, and in this sense of files in the digital format, we call it a database. And then the second one, a repository interface. So interface means the front end, or how we want to manage the database. It's a very simple things to do. You can straight away manage it using PHP MyAdmin for MySQL, or maybe Toad for database, or maybe any other interface that can have this ODBC or whatever it is connectivity from operating system to the back end of the database. So this is a place where we do the management. That is a repository of interface. But when you are user of CMS, some of you, especially for the content editor or content writer, they don't have accessibility to the database. And then for the management system is how we connect to other system. It enable you to receive information from the repository. So anything that you want to publish in CMS, actually we send it to the database, and then from the database is being pulled or displayed in the front end. Okay, and then we have a workflow module. Okay, embed each component and application in the manage of a life cycle. We have various type of module. We have for template, we have maybe a setting of header or footer, content, left pan, right pan. So any module that can be embed or used in the CMS, and also we have an administrative module. So it enables you to configure the CMS. So administrative module, it doesn't mean the administrator only manage people who use the system, but it also we want to redesign, installing a template, customizing a template, so on and so forth. So that is what is in a management system. Actually the thing that we already discussed beforehand. So the repository, like we saw, is the heart of the management system and the CMS as a whole. Everything that being published, being organized, being set up, or even though it's not active, it still must be put inside the repository. That's why from the day one of your lab activity, most of the time we have some things that we are stored to the database, and then it's going to be called or invoked to the front end. So component inside the repository, we have database and files. Okay, we have control and configuration files that do the following things, such as input of a publishing template, staff and user data file and database, rules files and database. We want to configure, we want to enable which part is the responsible, assign responsibility to a user. Okay, we have a meta information list, a content index files and database. Okay, most of the time, even though you are an administrator, you're not doing the back end programming in a full. Okay, you just use that CMS and application to manage the website. And then we have a record to log and other control files and structure, and we can enable a script or automated maintenance routine. It's up to you. We customize the PHP, we customize the management or maintenance routine. For example, you want to try to setting maybe twice a day, deleting a cache, or maybe resetting the files, and then have a limitation for the upload size of the image or video, or maybe we have some add-ons function that can reduce the files of the multimedia, such as huge image and a huge video, from the 1080 pixel to maybe for 460 pixel. It depends on how you maintain all of these things. So that can be part and must be stored in the database. Okay, so this is the high level view of CMS repository that shows the different part of the content storage option. So this is it's not the must have thing, okay, but this is the ideal that being imposed and being exercised, I mean being practiced to all current CMS. It's not the API one, the headless CMS. No, that is a different thing, but the fundamentals is still the same. Okay, you may take a look at this. You see the life cycle, the what is the part of that, what is inside the repository. So how to store content in CMS? We have a typical relational database, computer industry standard place to store a large amount of information, or maybe we are using an object database. In this way, most of the time you're using the XML. So XML, remember back in what we have discussed in metadata, how we organize this for your example. So that if you can see, this is the object database, and this is the relational database. So why this is two things is different? It's depend on what you handle of your content. Somehow, if for the small size of content management system, such as a very basic WordPress element, so maybe you can consider as a relational database, or maybe the customizable of the CMS itself is setting using the object oriented approach. So it's depend. What we are doing so far, installing the WordPress and everything, is using the relational database. We're going to discuss this in part 2, where we're going to discuss the hierarchical database management system. So relational database management system, this is just a recall from your previous study in your semester 2 in your database subject. Okay, normally what we have in the database, of course, we have a tables, and then we have a rows, and then we have a content or tuple. Okay, so basically what you will see in the Excel is simply like that is the way data is being stored. See, we have of course we have a column, and also we have a data type. Okay, normal for programming, but this is the high level. It's not a high level. It's for GL programming language. We are using a structured query language, or SQL. So this is the same thing. So storing content types and components in relational database. Suppose that an image goes along with each benefit component, an image of an employee. To represent the image, you have the following choice: store the image in the database, or store in the reference to the file that contains the image. So this is how This is not this is not a suggestion, or this is not a requirement. So this is just the practicality. Is depend on your situation. Okay, I give you a scenario whether you want to store a huge amount of data within a table, or you just use a reference. So a reference in at the another hand of storage in server, maybe we manage to store huge amount of images into somewhere else, and then we using that as a reference. Okay, don't be so confused about this. Okay, this is like this. Okay, this is the example. Okay, store a reference to the file that contains the image. Instead of we upload it into the table in the database, why not we just upload into someplace else, and then we auto created the reference of the image, and then that reference of the image is content of the table. This is how we want to reduce the loading time of the database. Okay, for a few hundred lines or a few hundred contents of the images, you cannot see the bottleneck or the slow of invoking content of the images. But when the content is a lot, for example, every day users keep uploading a few hundred image, and then suddenly your database is going to be very difficult to access. So that instead of a pure image, you just put a reference. This is one of the things. Most of the things that I tell you here based on the scenario and the practicality. Okay, when you do the installation and install the WordPress, it's simply all of the instruction and being done automatically by the PHP. But you need to know the structure. You need to know how the database is work in case you want to do the customization, or in case there is something broken in your system that's going to be hurt you, and then you must know how to handle that. Okay. Okay, storing type. This is, you can read also. So this is how the process of how we passing information from database to the converted into readable HTML. So all of this thing is actually done by the back-end process. Okay, what you can see when you see the source code, most of the time the content is in HTML. So there is no such way for you to see the PHP code that run in the web browser. So because the web browser, for example, like Mozilla or Mozilla Firefox, Opera, okay, Bing, they just interpret the HTML. So you cannot see the back end of the PHP programming. Okay, and then we have parsing method. We have a full parsing, we have a partial parsing, and then we have not parsing. So full parsing, you can create a column for each element in the text chunk. The partial parsing, you can store the entire text chunk in a single column, but pull out some of the elements into separate columns so that you can access them separately. With no parsing, you can store the entire text chunk in a single column and not worry about its internal tagging. So what is this actually? Oh no. Okay, let's give you, okay, this one. Okay, this is how the data stored. Okay, this is the data stored, and then for the full parsing, okay, it's a process of finding and selecting element, and storing is a process of finding the right database row and the column and putting the element text within it. Okay, let's say Um, I don't have a good example for this. Okay, maybe I want to use this. Okay, for example, you want to show this is the content that maybe inside your CMS database. Okay, maybe you have one column, okay, one column, the full passing, where the data of name, author, employee type, image, and everything inside one chunk. So that means it's not separated, which is the full passing is not recommended. Or maybe you can use like this and then we call what is necessary. For example, we want to execute or displaying medical, for example, and then for uh, author and then what image of this, so you just call them separately. I hope you understand this, where this is how it's up to you to setting it, but most of the time is pre-configured. Okay, but no passing. Okay, you can store the entire text chunk in a single column and not worry about its internal tagging. Internal tagging means you giving an ID, okay, or you giving uh, a primary key or foreign key or something like that. All right. Hopefully you understand this. Okay, and this is a theoretical thing, but when you do the installation, when you do customizing the CMS, actually it's being done automatically by the pre-configured PHP back-end programming, and then it's up to you if you want to change them. Okay, that is the end of the part 1. So we're going to the part 2. Okay, part 2 actually is quite it's not that technical, but this is another way around how we want to manage data inside your database for the CMS. Okay, we're going to discuss most of the thing related to hierarchy in RDB. So this is the example. Okay, this is the example how might this outline be represented in the database. Okay, we have useful site, site 1, site 2, site 3, news, industry, store 1, story 2, organization, and so on and so forth. Okay, how we want to, it's not how the back end of the CMS related to what we can view in the website. Okay, we take a look at what is the hierarchical data in relational database. It's a data structure where record are parents or children of another record of the same type. Okay, remember back, you already learned data structure and then learn object-oriented programming. The concept is still there, it's still the same. Okay, what is the data structure here means that we have a hierarchy where we have a parent and child. Okay, what is top, what is the bottom, and then if the multi-hierarchy, maybe what is on the top is a parent, and parent can be a child if they have another parent. Okay, remember the hierarchical diagram. Okay, a common example is employee and managers. Employees and managers are both employee of a company. A manager can have employees they manage and can also have a manager themselves. So that means in this story we have an employee, and then they have a superior, maybe a managing director, and then there's a manager, and under subordinate of the manager we have a normal employee. So we have a 3 level in this situation, for example. So the parent-child relationship, we call it the hierarchical. Okay, another example of hierarchical data is a product categories. Say you have, for example, you got a database from e-commerce website. You have a product and each of those are in categories. Your categories could be high-level categories such as clothing, toys, and home wearers. But you may also have a subcategories within those. In clothing, you may have jacket, we have pants, we have shoes, and within those subcategories, we may have even more categories. So remember, we have a multi-hierarchy level that we discussed in chapter 2. This is the thing also related to the database. Okay, I give this scenario, hopefully you understand. So I give this employee relationship in one of the organization so that you can see what is the meaning of hierarchy. It's not that difficult. The concept is very simple, but the implementation of the database, somehow right now everything is being done automatically. It doesn't mean that it's done automatically. It's pre-configured by the template, pre-configured by the WordPress, Joomla, or any product of the CMS. And somehow the headless CMS is going to be customizable and using an API. So back to this example. So we have an employee table that stores information about employees. Okay, we have an ID, we have first name and the last name. Okay, and then we also want to store manager. So let's create a new table of manager. We also has an ID, first name and last name. Okay, now we have a two table. So let's see the relationship. We want to see which manager is the manager of each employee. So we add a manager ID foreign key to the employee table. Remember, when you do the PSM project, please practical this. This is, we want to union or have the relationship between table to table. What is you want to manage to produce the output or to do operation. Okay, all right. So let's see the manager, and then let's see we have an employee. So the table of employee, we have foreign key. The foreign key that we do the relationship is manager ID. So that means we know that this particular ID of employee have the manager ID. So that manager ID will refer to the manager ID. So we know, okay, this employee is belong to who's manager. Okay, hopefully it makes sense. But then, what if the manager also has a manager? For example, a team member, team leader, and area manager. This is the hierarchy things that we want to resolve. Okay. Hopefully you find this during your development of PSM, because when I'm teaching you and say theoretically, so you cannot see what is the use of this. Okay. Okay, we could add new table called area manager to represent these more senior managers. It would also have an ID, first name and last name. We also add an area manager ID into the manager table. So let's see the three relationship between these three tables. So this is you, for example, as an employee. You have a manager ID, so I know which manager you are. Under which manager you are in. And then manager have the area manager. So that means this is the superior of your manager. So we have the three level of this hierarchy. So that means this is the hierarchy data in RDB or RDBMS. So we now have three tables here which capture the relationship. Alright, so is it practical to add more table? Why not? Okay, this is the basic implementation. But however, there are several problems with this. All of the tables are similar, storing the same kind of information. This is kind of duplication, right? And somehow, for example, we have a tuple that have the similar column name. For example, first name, last name, first name, last name, ID, except the manager ID, area manager ID. So employee structure need to follow this pattern. An area manager cannot have employees direct if we use this design. So that means to traverse, for example, you want to know who area manager you are in, you need to traverse to the manager, and then from manager you need to traverse to area manager. So it's not really complicated, but it's going to be exhaustive in terms of processing time. Okay, if an employee change roles, we need to move them to a new table. So that is the problem. And if we have additional level of management, we need to add a new table. This could mean we have 4, 5, 6 or more tables to record employee hierarchy. Why not? How to solve this? Okay, there are many ways to implement a design that solve this, but the concept essentially looks like this. Okay. This demonstrates a single table or a single type of record. It has a join to itself called a self-join that shows one record can be related to another record of the same type. Okay, within the single um, table, okay, we're going to use self-join. So this is one of the solution, okay, to highlight or to solve this thing, a few problems that might be have in the database. Okay, employees are related to other employees as manager. Product categories are parent categories of other categories. We going to use a simple thing that we call it an agency list. Okay, agency means sebelah menyebelah dekat. It's a design method for implementing hierarchical data. Okay, it's achieved by storing the ID of the related record on the desired record. You add one column to your table and send it as a foreign key to the same table primary key. Okay, still not see it yet, right? This is the method that I recommend using for the most cases. I'll explain more in the pros and cons. It's designed in the summary at the end of this guide. So I just discuss it like this. Okay, this is the solution. Okay, this is the it's not the only solution. This is one of the solution for me. Instead of we are creating more table and then traversing from one table to another table, which is still not, it's not fault to doing that, but this is some of the use of the hierarchical data in relational database. What you need to do is actually we do create a manager ID, or maybe we create a area manager ID. You just add a column, instead you add a table. Okay, so in conclude, okay, what I want to tell you is I give a scenario what might be a problem and the management of the repository or the database for the CMS. And then we have this data is not hierarchy. The data is hierarchy, but the process of implementing in the RDB is not hierarchy. So this is the example we want to solve. Okay, we want to solve this into this by doing this. All right, we just add a manager ID. Okay, the CEO has a manager ID of null as they don't have a manager. This is just an example. All other employees have a manager ID. For example, Steve, the head of sales, has a manager ID value of 1. This refers to employee ID 1, which is clear. Ruth's employee ID 13 has a manager ID of 11, which is Hugo as a team leader. So it's the most common example of achieving hierarchical data in a relational database. Okay, don't worry about CMS because everything is being done by a back end of the PHP from the developer, from the the developer or the CMS. But you as a maybe an administrator, one day you need to know all of these things. Okay, for example, the customization of the model, for example, Joomla, for example, it's not meet your expectation, it's not meet your requirement. So you need to go down and then customize the coding, okay, inside the CMS. All right, so actually all of things that I explained just now is related to this. We're using a represent nesting, a reference ID, and maybe enough information in the outline enable the system to format it later as a set of links to the component pages. It's depend on the structure and how do you want to develop, how do you want to customize the CMS. Remember, this is the CMS, it's not development of the thing that from scratch. Okay, this is another example. Okay, this is the same as employee table where we have instead of we add table, we just add a column, a child number, a component ID, so on and so forth. So uh, this is the thing that communicate between developer, graphic designer, and then server administrator, database administrator. So those four key personnel actually need to work together so that the website is easy to manage. Okay, and then it doesn't mean you need to know every roles of the all of the four person that I mentioned just now, but you need to know your part and your responsibility so that you can make the process of managing or developing the website is easy. Okay. All right, I guess that's all for chapter 4. All right. Okay, I already discussed the overview of a management system, the database in CMS, and the hierarchy in relational database. So in overview of management system, what I'm discussing more onto the repository, how the action of the repository represent the CMS and also the database in CMS. How we want to store it, is it using a relational or object approach, and also I want to discuss the hierarchy and RDB. So that is the typical management for database for CMS, and then we have a headless CMS where it's actually still the same, except it's going towards engine that stored in other places. So that is the thing happen nowadays. Okay, that's all. Okay, hopefully that is the end of the chapter 4. We have if you have any question and anything you want to ask, you just ask me, email me, WhatsApp me, or meet me personally. All right, that's all. Thank you, and Assalamualaikum.